Today, we're transforming this 12 by 12 by 18 Repti Crib Switch extra large enclosure that I got from my friends over at Tarantula Cribs into a lush, humid, semi-tropical rainforest, and it's all going to be perfectly designed for this little guy right here, Yogurt, my crested gecko, Corylophus ciliatus.
He's so cute.
Now, before you get into any build, it's important to understand where your animal actually comes from, because when you know that, you can build something that truly benefits them, not just something that looks cool to us. Crested geckos are native to the South Pacific islands of New Caledonia. Out there, they live high up in the canopy, surrounded by constant humidity, dense plant growth, and lots of moisture. These geckos are arboreal, meaning they spend nearly their entire lives climbing through branches, leaves, and moss-covered bark. They're found in just 3 main populations across the island, which makes them pretty special. So for me, the goal today is simple. Bring a piece of that New Caledonian forest into this little 12 by 12 by 18 cube of glass. Well, acrylic glass, but you know what I mean. Now let's talk about the fun part, the background. With all of my builds, I like to make things as 3-dimensional as possible, meaning I want things to pop whenever folks come over and see the enclosures. Again, this is a living piece of art, and sometimes you can win over folks who might be against reptiles by simply catching their eye. And then of course, once you bring out the animal, the rest will take care of itself. But that's neither here nor there. Even though this Repti Cribs enclosure isn't huge, I saw it as a challenge. And honestly, that's half the fun. Seeing how much depth and realism you can pack into a compact setup. First thing I did was silicone each side of the enclosure. This helps make sure that when I spray foam later, it'll actually adhere properly to the walls. After spreading it evenly, making sure it's not too clumpy, it's time to move on to the spray foam. Now, full disclosure, I definitely underestimated how much foam was left in the can. It felt full, but it surely wasn't. So I had to make it work. Lesson learned here, next time I'll either store it properly or just buy a new one for each project. But hey, as always, hindsight is 20/20. While the foam was still wet, I sprinkled in peat moss, wood shavings, and bits of moss right into the surface to give it texture and help it blend naturally once it cures. I also pressed a few wood pieces into the foam to add structure and realism. I then installed my cork sheets on both side walls. This part is crucial to do while the foam is still soft, because once it hardens, trying to wedge something in can crack or ruin the background. I might have learned a lesson or two. Again, hindsight is 20/20. But if you're not learning, then you're simply not trying. But thankfully I got these all set in place before things got super hardened, because that would have set me back a few hours or really even days. Now after all of that, I let the foam sit overnight to truly cure. And remember, patience is key here. Rushing this step is a rookie mistake. So unfortunately, in the midst of me editing this video, I was rudely awakened by something I honestly could have never imagined. The firebelly toad paludarium that we built in the last video unfortunately has a leak. So I had to step away from editing to do an emergency water pumping to remove the water, and in order to safely do this, I had to remove our frogs. All is well though, and I'm just gonna leave this little bit of water, which shouldn't affect any of the life in there. I like to believe though that blessings come in disguise in various different ways, and I believe there is a lot of blessings with this paludarium leaking, and I'll explain that in another video. But for right now, let's get back into our crested gecko enclosure build. Alright, fast forward to the next day, everything's cured, and now it's time to add life. Now before the leak, we did have a really awesome looking firebelly frog paludarium, which I want to give a huge shout out to everyone who watched that build. That setup was thriving, the frogs were moving from top to bottom, and honestly, I made a few updates. like adding a few extra fish and taking out some plants. Because truthfully, they just were not surviving well within the setup. So I decided to repurpose some of those for this new Crested Gecko setup where they'll have better living conditions and hopefully thrive. Before planting though, we have to get the foundation right, and that means substrate. I'm using Arachnidirt Tropical Blend from my friends at Tarantula Cribs. This substrate is perfect for humid enclosures and for promoting plant growth. I also mixed in some of my organic soil to help create a nutrient-rich base for the plants to root deeply and grow strong. Now that everything has been planted, I realized something. I completely forgot about the hardscape. I was so focused on the plants and the foam work that I didn't even think about adding structure, but once I looked at the space again, I saw there was actually plenty of room to get creative. So I grabbed some spiderwood, cut it down to size, and started arranging it into natural climbing paths. Crested geckos love to climb. Now that everything's intact, I gave it a generous misting, and honestly, at this point, it already looked like a small slice of New Caledonia. A little piece of southern Pacific Islands recreated inside this Repti Cribs enclosure. From the naturalistic canopy to the lush plant growth and humidity, this setup gives Yogurt everything he needs to climb, hide, and feel right at home. Alright, now that the enclosure is done, right here, we're gonna sneak upstairs to see if Elaine is around, to see if she's gonna give any type of reaction. Hopefully she loves it, because this is gonna be the centerpiece to our living room. So I'm gonna place the camera right here, and I'm gonna try not to make a mess. But if we do, you know, that's what editing's for. Oh boy, this is heavier than when I brought it down. Oh boy.
That, of course, looks so good per usual.
Should be cat for the camera.
It looks like shit. It looks good. No, it looks like a rainforest. Like,
that's where they are, New Caledonia.
That looks like a rainforest for real.
Yeah. After days of hard work, it was finally time for the best part, introducing Yogurt to his new home. He immediately started checking things out, climbing the vines, exploring the cork, and settling into his new forest. This is the moment that makes all the effort worth it, seeing your animal enjoy the environment you created for them. If you guys enjoyed this build, make sure to hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow and lets me keep making bigger and better habitats like this one. Well, this tiny one. And if you're new here, consider subscribing to Goes Wildlife to follow along with all my animal projects, from snakes and monitors to geckos, frogs, and so much more. Big thanks to my friends over at Tarantula Cribs for always supporting my builds. And until next time, keep creating, keep learning, and keep bringing nature indoors. As always, God loves you, so do I. Spread love, not hate.